Welcome to the 2026 Omak PSIS Youth Council Election Forum. We will begin with introductions from the Youth Council. Hello, my name is Jasmine Lorenz Lowe. I'm the president for the PSIS Youth Council. I'm also a residential student at PSIS. My future career goal is to get into college and to go into the U.S. Coast Guard.
Hello, my name is Camille Burke. I am the vice president for the Pascal Sherman Indian School Youth Council. My parents are Christy Burke and Michael Burke. My future career goals are to be a lawyer.
Hello, my name is Ikaika Shumpert. I'm the treasurer for the PSIS Youth Council. My parents are Melanie McDougall and James Shumpert. My future career goals are wildland firefighting and culture teacher.
Hello, my name is David Ochamba. I am the representative for the PSIS Youth Council. My parents are Bridget Phillips and Gregory Chamba. My future career goals are to be a culture teacher and a history teacher.
We will now read the rules of the debate.
Each candidate will have a set time for opening statements, responses, and closing remarks. A time clock will be visibly displayed in front of the candidates, and a second will be displayed in front of the audience. There will be an opening statement for 3 minutes. Response to questions will be 2 minutes per question, and closing statements will be 3 minutes. A designated moderator will facilitate the debate, ensuring fair and orderly discussion. The moderators have the authority to enforce rules. Candidates will be given equal opportunity to respond. No direct rebuttals unless specified by the moderator. Candidates must remain respectful and professional. Personal attacks, interruptions, or inflammatory language will not be tolerated. Repeated violations may result in a time deduction or removal from the debate. The audience is encouraged to attend and listen and must remain respectful. No disruptions, shouting, or commentary during the candidate responses. In the event of a technical issue, such as a microphone failure, the debate will pause briefly to allow for a resolution. Debates may be recorded and made available for public viewing. Media representatives are welcome but must adhere to designated areas and guidelines. All media must register with Chad Marchand and sign in upon entry to the debate.
We will now begin with our opening statements. You will have 3 minutes. We will begin with Patty.
White Husk, Caholt, into East Queest. My name is Patty McClung Adolph, and I'm glad to see so many people here tonight. And I hope that there is others watching on YouTube as well. I'd like to first start with a quick prayer for wellness for our people, and that we respect all candidates who are participating, not just OMAC candidates, but all the district candidates. I'll start by introducing my parents, Stella McClung Zachary and Norman LaCourse McClung, and the dad who raised me, William F. Stenskar, also known as Squeak. I am of Colville, Okanagan, Aniet, Moses, Columbia, and Arrow Lakes ancestral descent. I've had a long career working with the tribe and with the corporate. I first started in the BIA as an HR technician, and from there I worked at Pascal Sherman Indian School as a teacher aide and a school secretary for a short period of time. And from there I started my career at the Colville Indian Precision Pine, which we refer to as CIPP, and I was the first employee hired there in 1983 when they started building the sawmill. And then we grew into full production, and unfortunately Pascal, the CIPP mill didn't continue on. So from there I went on to the Colville Tribal Federal Corporation and the Colville Tribal Logging, where I was the office manager and did their accounting, payroll, and bookkeeping. I then went to the casino accounting department as their assistant controller, and I learned a lot about how the casino operates as far as the segregation of duties and the flow of the cash. which I think is very important these days. I currently work with the Gaming Commission. I started as a deputy director, and then I advanced to the gaming director position, and I've been in that position for about 9 years. And it's been very challenging and rewarding at the same time. I feel very successful in that position, and I feel like I owe a lot to my team who I work with. We oversee the regulation over the casinos, and I've been in that position for about 9 years. And I just wanted to thank the Youth Council for putting on this candidate forum.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into a lot of the relationships with my biological parents, because I do think in the political world and tribal leaders, I look at everybody as related in some form or another. I think it couldn't be more appropriate. I thank the youth that are here and the elders. I think no matter what we do, I think everything is about the youth. It's about moving forward in the next 7 generations, they say, to make it's a better place. And I think that's whatever we do. I think it's a coordinated effort. And the bottom line is it's all about whatever we do, it's all about making this a better place for everybody. So that's kind of the view that I look at. Today I was getting a haircut, and I thought, that was a pretty good statement. I was eavesdropping on somebody. Somebody said that they were talking about businesses, and they said that if you own a business and if you don't treat your clients well, then you really don't have a business. And I see this in our relationship with our people. So I think that we need to remind ourselves we have to have a good relationship with our people, or we really don't have a business. And I take that to heart. In the bigger world, we're seeing a whole lot of chaos. And I think we're having Indian tribes, Indian people, not only in you folks, going to ask questions today that are important. And nationally, we ask a lot of questions. I mean, basically, we're asking, where do we fit in all of this? And I think that's really a good question, because as you folks are stepping forward and soon going to be in school looking for careers and stuff, and our dependency on the government and the tribe and stuff, a lot of those things are very, very important to you. Because I hear just the other day on some of and you don't know what to believe anymore, fact or fiction, what news that you get, because I hear that the education, they want to cut out our junior colleges that are across the country. What were some of those schools over there, Margie, that people all went to in boarding schools, Haskell and all those type of things? You're thinking about cutting those fundings for them. And I think it's going to take a whole lot of strategic thoughts and cooperation and working together to see what we're going to do as a tribe moving forward. And I think that
your time is up.
Okay. I'm an elder. Can I get 2 more minutes?
White, Snimaspa Oostin Chaisquis, Dustin Best. I want to welcome everybody for coming today and people online watching. So, my experience in living here on the reservation, growing up here on the reservation, has taught me a lot about our people, our tradition and culture, growing up out Kartar, by my aunt, learning from my great-grandmother and my grandmother, all those life lessons out there. And So my experience is 33 years as a public servant for the Colville tribe. I worked my way from the bottom up to council. You know, retired as a chief of police, and I learned a lot of things on the reservation, what happens on the reservation, and getting my education to do my duty and my job for the positions I had as a police officer. So I can bring a lot of value to our tribe. And having education, you know, getting my bachelor's degree and master's degree it was hard time to get that, but it was achievement that I made and a goal so I can better myself and better my tribe. And I also went to the Navy for almost 8 years. And so I'm a Navy veteran and learned a lot of skills and life skills from there to bring back home. And I also was on the school board for 6 years for Pascal Sherman. Also, was on the LGBTQ Washington State Commission for Washington State. Also a member of the God, what is it called? It's the emergency management for Washington State with the Army Corps or Army National Guard. And so those are a lot of things that I are working towards and goals for myself to work with us and our tribe. And also right now I'm working on the boarding school issues that happened at the St. Mary's Mission that I'm currently engaged in working in. So if I tell you my parents are Patty Marchand and Dwayne Best and grew up at Cartar, and the hard things why I want to be a leader too for myself to let people know is, you know, working 33 years for the tribe, working from the bottom up and seeing, you know, how leaders treat individuals, how they treat their employees, how they treat their tribal members. I wanted to be at that table and be a voice for our community because a lot of the people in the lower areas of positions never get heard. And I've been there, done that, seen it, and see how it goes on the table. But that's a little bit about me, so thanks for coming.
Hi, my name is Margie Condon Hutchinson. I'm interested in being on the council because of all the issues that are going on, especially the clinic. It's unfortunate that we're not able to open the clinic yet because it's not in the right system, and there are many people that are going outside to get their services for medical. But I started out as a rancher, raised cattle and hay, and then I finally went to work for the tribe, and I worked for the Timber Stand Improvement Program. From there, I went to the enrollment office and worked there for 25 years. And to this day, I still help people with their enrollment issues. And then I went to the Colville Business Council for 12 years and was able to be on a lot of task forces like the Wells Dam Task Force. I was on the negotiating team and we helped pass that. And I was also on the gaming task force and we passed that. Our cannabis, I was on that while I was on the council and we passed that. And I'm also a St. Mary's Mission student. I boarded up there for 7 years, and the nuns were pretty rough. And when Dustin talks about the boarding school, it was a really challenging time for the young Indian kids. There was times when some of the kids would wet their bed and the nuns would make them go outside in the middle of winter. It would be freezing. They'd make them wash their blankets outside, freezing. And so they were not treated very well. I should say we were not treated very well. And so from that experience, I've learned how to, survive. And then I finally, at the end of my career, I went to the federal government and worked there for 9 years and finished at the top as a GS 14, Step 7. And so I was all happy, and I guess guess I'll finish more after you have questions. Thank you.
We will begin our questions. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer the question. We will start with candidate Preston. Many tribal economies rely on a small number of revenue sources. Beyond maintaining what already exists, where would you invest to create future jobs and economic growth, and explain how you would plan to achieve this?
You know, that's a tough question, also a hard question too, but I think on the basics, you guys are at those crossroads. I think education, anyway, my background is social work, and the premise to social work is always a hand up, and to really get a foundation is education. So I think that's, you know, that's a good investment. And as the tribe transitions into the casinos and whatever other businesses they want to venture into, I think we need to have competent people. I would like to see more teachers, brown-skinned people teaching, a lot more people in the health field. Yeah, I was just looking at the list of jobs that the tribe had there, and there's a lot of jobs that a lot of our Native people aren't, I mean, nobody's applying for them because a lot of people do not have those required certification and skill sets. So that's kind of what I would like to really have them focus on. And as we transition into more things, you know, our own people, with the help of tarot, and now we use tarot, can fit and can fill those jobs. So, because that's kind of what we do things to employ our own people, so that we can build the standard of living for them.
Dustin, can we have you also answer the same question?
Can you read the question again?
Many tribal economies rely on a small number of revenue sources. Beyond maintaining what already exists, where would you invest to create future jobs and economic growth, and explain how you plan to accomplish this?
So growing economics for the tribe is sometimes pretty hard. Since we live in a rural area, sometimes it's usually pay versus travel. Tribal members that are in low-end jobs have a hard time getting to work because the gas price is so high. So we have to create ways of growing that field for employment for tribal members. But I think that enhancing, first of all, I think we need to separate government from business. Council has gotten too much into the businesses of our tribe, which usually screws up the whole system. And politics don't work with business. And so that's, I think, the biggest goal is that separation from the top down. Having CFED and fuels and the casinos, you know, create their own business and their own investments, and the tribe conduct their own type of investments. The tribe has like $452 million in investments through stock markets, which is growing, you know, every day. So we need to put more investments into those type of things. Have more businesses outside the reservation to grow and to help, you know, bring back funding for our social service systems, you know, TANF, Elder, Wood, all those type of things that help our tribal members. And so balancing that out is sometimes hard, but we need to look at the future because the government's not always going to be there for us, and the tribes need to look out for themselves. Thank you.
Margie, can we also have you also answer that question?
Well, I think, you know, the tribe has a lot of former allotments off the reservation, like in the Kashmir area, Wenatchee area, and on the north half. I think we need to purchase some of those former allotments back to the tribe and develop like like we have here, the gas stations, the cannabis, the cigarettes, because in the Kashmir area, the median wage is much, much higher than Okanagan County. And so if we invested in those former allotments, which I think would be great for the tribe, and also agriculture. There's a lot of money in agriculture. I mean, a lot of grants that we could use to benefit the tribe and have the land values go up with agriculture grants. And I don't think we're taking advantage of all those, because I heard from a friend that is with the agriculture department, and she stated, you know, that the tribe is not very involved in agriculture, and that's where the most money is at. And I think more education for our youth, whether it be trades or college, I support education 100%.
Patty, may you please answer this question too? And after you guys are done answering the question, can you have the next person to your left answer the same question? Please and thank you.
May I ask you to repeat the question?
Many tribal economies rely on a small number of revenue sources. Beyond maintaining what already exists, where would you invest to create future jobs and economic growth? And explain how you would plan to accomplish this.
I know you said that beyond the existing businesses that we currently have, but I can agree with all the candidates up here in regards to their answers. But I think the tribe really needs to focus on their existing businesses that they have, because they can be more successful. And when I go out to other tribal reservations and their businesses, they do a lot of branding and a lot of marketing, and they put their stamp on their culture, and they bring it into their businesses. And I think that's an element that we could do better on with our casinos, and it might be even as simple as things as changing our menu to brand things to make it be Colville's, and or giving people an experience when they come to visit our businesses. And I know that our Colville Fuels is doing a really good job at doing that, at marketing their businesses and getting employees to work there and to build a career there. So I feel like focusing on the existing businesses and moving those businesses back to the corporate, where they away from the political, I guess, element of running a business. And I support Indian-owned businesses, and I think it's important that our existing corporations should be reaching out and are utilizing those privately owned Indian-owned businesses, which would also help the economic development for our tribe. Thank you.
Dustin, every leader eventually faces difficult budgeting decisions. If funding became limited and you had to make cuts somewhere, what would you protect, what would you reduce, and why?
So recently we had to face those type of issues, cold, hard budget cuts. And so having an $88 million travel budget is pretty hard, and having tons of employees, tons of services, you have to look what is the most important. And public service and social services are probably the most important for elders and youth, and those we try not to cut, but we always look at the top down from the programs, because a lot of programs can be really top heavy, and eliminating some of those positions will help decrease the budgets temporarily, but also looking ways to cut costs from your line items and your budgets that are not necessary to run that program. There's a lot of stuff when COVID happened. A lot of programs got a lot of extra money, a lot of grants only for a year or two. So a lot of those things interfere with maintaining that budget because you only get so much funding. And that's why it's critical to have good businesses, good investments, so we can maintain those budgets for the tribe and for its people. Also looking at programs and services that are duplicated. We have a lot of those duplications in our tribe that we need to really look at and eliminate or combine. And so that will reduce some of the costs for those expenditures. And also having tribal programs apply for grants and grants from the state or the feds to reduce the funding from our tribal funds, because we can use those tribal funds for other necessary programs. And having those type of leaders in those positions fight for grants from the federal government or whoever can get those to help the tribe.
Margie, may you also answer the question?
Yes, I'm in agreement with Dustin about going from the top to the bottom, because in the past they would try to cut all of the small people first, and that didn't amount to that much money. And so I think there's some positions, like you have layers of managers, and when you call to the tribe and ask a question, it's like directing traffic. Nobody can answer that question. They just keep passing it on. And so it makes you wonder, do we need them there? And so I think we need to really look at some of those programs that have lost their justification, like they'll receive a grant, and when that grant's over, the tribe funds them. You need to cut those grants because they've lost their justification for that grant. And so those programs need to be cut. And let's see. I think there is a lot of duplication. I think we have too many people overseeing some of the small businesses. I mean, it's just overkill. And I think that with better management, if someone loses money, they need to go down the road and not just continue to stay there. Because if they can get rid of someone that just has a bad attendance, I mean, it takes them a split second to get rid of them, but if somebody's losing $2 million, oh well, you know, the tribe doesn't even look at them. So I would cut people that are not managing the funds right, because it's our money. It's the people's money that is being mismanaged.
Patty, I'll also have you answer the question too.
As far as determining where cuts should be made if funding sources were depleted, I think overall, as the tribe looks at each department, they each have their own budgets, and they could go in there and decide what our needs and versus wants. And I know a lot of times travel and training are budget line items that could be eliminated or reduced, which would be a significant savings. And I know that there's a need for training, but a lot of those trainings could be done in-house. And I feel like some of the upper management and supervisors should have enough experience to where they could be providing those in-house trainings to those employees, so that would be significant savings there. And like duplication of services, currently I know that there are multiple departments within the tribe that offer the same services, but it's almost like we have to offer them because we're so different from each other. Like gaming does the background checks, and I know human resources for the tribe does them, and then also law enforcement. So there's some things that are duplicate or triplicate, but they're necessary. So I guess just overall assessment of what where dollars might be saved needs to be looked at. And I think from there you would probably get a lot of savings just by looking at some of the line item expenditures. And I know that when the fiscal year starts coming to an end, some of the departments, oh my gosh, we got to spend that money, our fiscal year's ending. Well, if you haven't spent it in 11 months, why are you rushing to spend it in the last 30 days? Apparently you didn't need it. So I think that concept needs to be looked at as far as the year-end expenses. Thank you.
Preston, I'll also have you answer the same question.
Okay, I believe a lot what they're saying here, but kind of maybe in a different way. I think we really need to, I would start at the top on the cuts. And I think that we need to look at the top to the bottom, from the bottom to the top, and I think we'd be a better organization in society if we looked at measurable outcomes. I mean, what are their purpose, their goals, and what have they accomplished? I've been in the social services field for a long time, and we did that just looking at the quality of the counseling field from A to Z, from when you bring in a client, and what are the steps, and the treatment plans that you're doing, and the results that you're getting in the outcomes. I think if we evaluate a lot of the programs in that respect in terms of measurable outcomes and the quality of work and all those things, I think you'd have a better program and better outcomes and better results. So I'm always looking at I think we're all critical of salaries too, and I think that we should I'd always be for cutting at the tops and really looking at see if the salaries match up with the competencies and the outcomes that we're trying to produce for the tribe. And I'm being educated in social work and education, I'm always against making any cuts for the most vulnerable among us. And I think even in big society we're seeing that too, where they're trying to cut out health care and a lot of things that affects the poor people.
Thank you, everybody, for answering the question.
Margie, tribal members often want greater communication and transparency from leadership. What would you change so members feel more informed and have greater trust in tribal government?
Absolutely. Anytime anyone calls me, I return their call. And if they send me an email or a text, I will return that correspondence. When I would call the tribe, I would want an answer, and you didn't get an answer. And so to me, it's very important to respect our tribal members and keep them in the communication loop when they have questions. It's very important for me.
Thank you. Can we have Patty also answer the same question?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Tribal members often want greater communication and transparency from leadership. What would you change so members feel more informed and have greater trust in tribal government?
I support that the tribal government should be transparent in everything that they do, and communication is of utmost importance. And I just feel like making sure that our membership is informed, whether it's through the Tribal Tribune, through the emails, to get information. I know a lot of people don't have the technology, but there might also be other methods that they could use, bulletin boards or posting information in public areas where they might frequent, whether it's the laundromats, the post offices, places like that, the community centers. And letting people know in advance, because I know a lot of times functions are happening and we aren't informed of them until like the day before or the day of. And so I think planning and those departments who are offering those programs or those functions need to determine in advance how they're going to let the community know what activities taking place. it seems like sometimes they conflict with each other, and people have a hard time in, deciding whether to go, here or there, which is, maybe if they communicated their departments of what's going on, they might be able to, work it out to where, I'll do it on Thursday, you can do it on Friday kind of thing, so people can attend those events. And I know that a lot of times the community hopes that they'll see their leaders there, but sometimes they might be in other locations, so it's not always that they don't want to be there, it's just, they might be attending another function somewhere else. So I think the community or the membership needs to understand that we're human as well, and we can't be everywhere all at the same time, but we sure will try our best.
Thank you,
Okay,
Patty,
next.
for answering that question. Can we have Preston
Okay.
answer the same question, please?
I think this is a thorn on a lot of guys' side, is return calls and all that stuff. I think that the tribe would really benefit from customer service training, and it's not what you say to people, it's really how you say it, and be a little bit kinder to people, so that they can get their needs met. I also, at a broader perspective, I think we need more. If you're talking about communication and transparency, I think we need a whole lot of more report outs, verbal and written, from our people making the big bucks. I'd like to see more of that, in the Tribune versus, all the sports activities are very nice, but I think that would be nice to have some good biographies on some elders or some people that do accomplish, as opposed to just snapshots of sports events, even though I'm a sports fan. Yeah, because if you don't do a lot of report outs and do things, I worked several jobs at the tribes, and I was a interim manager for a while too, and a lot of the programs I didn't even hear about. I think they were the best kept secrets because nobody really knew about them. And if you don't know where the resources are and what type of jobs you have, people don't know how to get help. And I think there's still a whole lot of those that programs could do a better idea of saying who they are, what they do, and what you have to do to qualify and all those things, so that people know about those so they can apply for them. Otherwise, they get left out.
Thank you, Preston, for reading that question. Can we have Dustin also answer the same question, please?
So that's a really great question. That's why I ran for council the first time, is transparency. When I was chief of police, I was either told to resign or be terminated. And council was my direct supervisor, 14 of them. They wouldn't take my call, return calls. They wouldn't talk to me at all, explain anything, so I resigned. And so that's why I ran for council, is to be that voice for employees that got treated like that from the table. But I think everybody needs to slow down at the table. Everybody needs to look what's important out there for the people. Provide more social media posts, prepare meetings long in advance so people have time to change their schedules to come to committees through the council so they can hear and voice their opinion, have better meetings at district meetings, provide more information so that everybody can be informed, put more information on the Tribune, not just once a month, but bi-weekly, so members can be informed of what's going on in their tribal government and on their reservation. The tribe hasn't did that at all very good, and which is sad, because a lot of rumors and gossip get spread around Facebook of things that happened at the table and nobody really understands until they finally reach one of their representatives. And so that's the hard part, is just preparing and having things out there and not do everything at the last minute. Oh, we have a meeting tomorrow, show up and voice your opinion, and people have daily lives. And so that's just hard, but my door is always open. I always return calls and text messages. So thank you.
Thank you for your answers. Patty, communities face challenges that include substance abuse, crime, mental health concerns, and family issues. How would you help solve these issues?
Could you repeat that question? I didn't hear the first part of it.
Communities face challenges that include substance abuse, crime, mental health concerns, and family issues. How would you help solve these issues?
Well, I know we all have a lot of those concerns personally within our own families and our own community, and I feel like resources is one of the main issues that we try and determine and have available. I feel like some of our resources aren't readily available, and a lot of times the departments that offer those services should ultimately be 24/7, when sometimes they're Monday through Friday or 410s, whatever it might be. And I get it that, you know, they too have their lives, but they should be able to run a schedule to where there's always somebody on call or always somebody available 24 hours a day. You know, maybe providing those resources to our membership, because not all of us are aware of any hotlines that we might have available, whether it be teen suicide or you know, somebody wants to get into treatment. I know right now we're faced with not having a detox unit, and that's one of the critical elements for a person who's finally coming forward and saying that they want treatment. Having to go through that detox period safely, so they survive, is very important. So I feel like just maybe focusing more on the needs of those individuals and providing those resources would be beneficial to our membership.
Thank you, Patty, for your answer. Preston, may you answer this question?
Okay. You know, that's a good area. You know, I personally went through with try to help people, because that was a big problem with people trying to get it in mental health. And you know, I think it goes back to the programs, because when we were there, you had the Josephine Marcellis and the people. We had a first knowledge of a relationship with the people who worked across town, and the regional support network in Ephrata, and the state resources, because if you want to get into substance abuse, the tribe doesn't have the funding. They don't pay any of that. They go through IHS, is the one who gives the tribes the money for substance abuse and mental health and all those wellness things. So, and just making some calls, following up some people. We weren't where we were even as much as 5-10 years ago, because a lot of the knowledge, the Josephine Marcellis and the Joan Grosjeans and the people who run social services, those KSAs, knowledge, skills, and abilities, are no longer there. People have to build relationships so that they can, you know, call somebody up and get people in the door. I mean, I could get with Josephine Marcelli, and we could get somebody admitted to the institution Medical Lake. I mean, today. Now it's virtually kind of unheard of. If people don't know how to access those and have people to network with, I mean, you're behind the 8 ball. So I think that's a big one, that the leaders that need to make sure that people are competent in doing that.
Thank you, Preston, for your answer. Dustin, you can answer next.
So that's a really good question. You know, the system is broken for our youth and for people that are addicted to drugs and abuse. You know, I've been law enforcement for 20 years and dealt with a lot of youth, a lot of adults, parents, even grandparents that struggle through that whole system. And it's not an easy fix, not easy solution. It's very hard on the family, very hard on the individual. That is a disease for individuals, and it's very hard for Native people to get out of it because it's relatively new for them, you know, from colonization to on drug abuse. So that's a lot of issues we really have to fix. And I think it takes everybody to get involved, the community, the parents, the schools, law enforcement, all to team up to deal with those type of issues out there, because it can't just be the school. You can't just blame society. We all have to take a step up in the community to deal with these issues. And a lot of these people up here have dealt with it with their own families, and the fight for it, it's pretty stressful. I know we have our treatment center in Keller. That's just for adults now, but we really need to look at our youth. We're trying to get a detox center, and also after services, after you get out detox, you need a place to stay and live to transition back into society, and we don't have that either. So we have a lot of services that are broken within the tribe that we can't fix. Having telehealth is a great thing now, that we can have telehealth for our youth to call to get counselors and have somebody to talk to, and that's today's technology. But yeah, and also bring back Yellow Cloud. You guys probably don't know Yellow Cloud, but it was for juveniles that were in torn homes or had abuse issues or somewhere to stay where they had counselors 24/7 for someone to stay. We need to bring that back. Thank you.
Thank you, Dustin, for your answer. Margie, you can answer now.
That's a really, really hard question, especially for me. I've dealt with it right from the beginning with my grandson, and we never gave up on him. He wanted to have his drugs. We try to take him to different places like Oxford houses, clear to Yakima, and we would visit him all the time. And we tried everything we could to try to get him off the drugs. We spent, time and time again, and then we finally lost him. All you can do is tell them you love them.
Thank you, Margie, for your answer.
Patty. Patty, housing shortages are affecting many families. How do you feel like you'd solve these issues?
Could you repeat the question, please?
House shortages are affecting many families. How do you feel like you could solve these issues?
That's a good question. Housing shortage is obvious because we currently have, multiple generations living under a household, sometimes 2 and 3 generations. But sometimes in our culture, those are things that we do because we're always helping one another. But there are times when, your children start having children, so, they really need to find their own place. I think the tribe needs to really take a look at land that's available that they could allow tribal members to purchase, because I know a lot of times banks won't loan someone money unless they own the land. And it's even more difficult because our land is trust. So there's just some barriers that are created for members who want to build a home. Some banks will finance you if it's a mobile home, because then they have the ability to seize that property if needed. But our tribe should look into maybe offering other avenues, whether it's through housing, affordable housing, building apartments, not just for low income, but middle income families as well would be useful. And I believe today they had an open house, groundbreaking for apartment complex that they're going to be building in Omak. So it's always good to see more housing being offered. So if that continues, I hope that someday we'll have enough housing for everybody, and we'll be able to attract the right people in to fill the positions that we have within our healthcare facility. Thank you.
Thank you for your answer, Patty. Preston, can you answer the same question?
Okay, can you hear me? You know, I see a lot of big things that hamper a lot of these things with families too. It's when I talk about in my paper about inclusive or an exclusive, I'm talking about, I think we need to revisit policy in terms of how we qualify and stuff. I see a lot of things too in federal regulations that tribe has adopted too, and I don't think it serves the purpose with a lot of our people in our society. One of the examples is we have in our housing, if you have DV charges and these certain behaviors, but if you go away and get that address and fix it, I think that you should be able to be reconsidered for that, because we have so much alcoholism and drug abuse and all those type of things, and we shouldn't use that, put that over a person's head that they can't get housing, because you can get turned away and doing all these things and people just give up, you know, and then it becomes suicide. They live on the streets, so the problems just mask and go and go and go. So I think our policy should be more, we want to, let's say, we're always using cultural things, culturally orientated and civil, because families are going to reunite, but when they get well and they get treatment, let's put them back together. So we can't hold them apart by saying, hey, you can't live in this house now because you got a DV 40 years ago. So, but that is a tough one.
Thank you for your answer, Preston. Dustin, can you answer the same question?
So housing issues for the tribe has been ongoing since time immemorial, since the reservation started. So it's pretty hard to build a home, to get financing, to lease land from the tribe. All these hurdles that tribal members have to face to even to get a home or to even have a home. Then it's different between somebody that has medical issues to a medium income to somebody that has more money. The tribe caters a lot to people that need the services, need homes, but we also have a lack in the medium income level for tribal members to afford home too. And so it's an ongoing issue that we face. We have Colville Indian Housing Authority. We had the Cedar Fund that's assisting with housing to find opportunities for funding to help with infrastructure or to buy land to build a housing unit for individuals. And looking at tribal credit policies for tribal members to get a home loan, we really look at that area to change the policy to help tribal members, because it's pretty hard to meet that threshold of bank loans if you only can lease a property or lease to own. So that's a struggle for tribal members there itself, and we're trying to fix that right now on how that issue works. Also getting grants and contracts to the federal government and the state to help with infrastructure issues for projects to help tribal members. Looking at IHS, wells and sewers, we get that grant or funding to help tribal members start that. So we really look at more areas in those because it's all across the nation. Everybody's having housing issues, and we're just trying to keep up, and it's hard to get funding for that. Thank you.
Thank you for asking. Thank you for answering, Dustin. Marty, can you answer the same question?
Well, I think that we should bring outside housing, not just the HUD. I know I purchased my home over 30 years ago from outside housing, and the credit department had very good interest rates. I think I paid like 4% interest rate, but now it's sky high to get a home through tribal credit. And I think maybe we should really look at the percentage rates for owning a home, because they're going to stay here. They're not going to move. The house is going to stay here. And I'd like to see some of the people that are working for the tribe that live in Spokane or other areas build a home here. And when you're done working here, there'll be a home for people. You know, don't just come and take our money and go back to Spokane or wherever else you're living and you're working for the tribe. I've always thought that that should happen. And then for the homeless, the last time that I was on the council, we went to the coast and looked at the small, tiny homes for interim for people to get, just the homeless people to stay in there for a while and then go into a regular home. So I think that's really important to look at the homeless housing. There are programs that are for first-time homeowners as well. And so I think we need to look into that too, because I've read a lot about that. Thank you.
Thank you for answering, Marty. Thank you for answering.
We will now begin closing statements. Each candidate will have 3 minutes for a closing statement. Preston, can you please begin your closing statement?
Well, hey, I appreciate this. I think I don't think we'll solve anything if we don't have dialogue. If you can see me on Facebook, I jump in probably more than I should, but I think that's where it's at. I mean, that's where the youth are at, and that's where they dialogue. You know, we can't get on there and call each other stupid and stuff. I think we have to look for results, and you see where people are. I mean, you know, you see it in the white world too. So I think we have to meet people from where they're at. So anyway, with that said, you know, I like the discussion because I think that's what we have to do. We have to do a whole lot more discussions to see where people are at. And I think we really have to put our checks and balance, look at what we're doing, look what families are doing, do data. I mean, I know when we were doing grants and contracts with the tribe, we had nobody. At one point in time, the planning did gather data. That really helped you with your ability to explain things and do concrete things so that you could get funding. I don't think we have that anymore. So anyway, after it's all said and done, I think that we have to remember it's we the people, and we have to treat each other a lot more respectfully, and you know, it's all about being good to our people, and starting from that measurements to see what our future is going to be. So thank you.
So once again, thank everybody for coming. So the reason why I want to run for council is the transparency and the issues I had in the past with the council, and the way council was running before. You know, they had districtitis, you know, they had separation at the table. They were constantly fighting, and other districts got what they wanted. People got terminated for things they shouldn't have got terminated for. But from the past council to present, you know, we disagree at the table, but we agree. There's a lot of teamwork. There's no more I did this project. We're all about a team. You look at all the projects now in the last 4 years, we finally got it together to where these projects got done. They may have started 10, 15 years ago, but there was always fighting at the table who got what project. But now it's, you know, what project is ready, it gets done. We look at Omak District now. We have an Omak clinic. We have the senior meal site. We have the Head Start. We have the new apartments that are coming from Culver Indian Housing Authority. And once the clinic starts, within 2 years, we have start saving funding for the wellness center. You know, we're going to dream big for that. So we already have that in a resolution that that's going to be done and started. So a lot of things, you know, teamwork as council is what's necessary at the table, because in the past we haven't had that, and it's better for the membership. And, you know, and it's been an honor serving you guys, and so and it's hard to get up here and speak, and it's hard to be a council person at the table because you don't know what it's like when you sit at the table. When I was just employee, it was terrible. You know what I mean? I thought council was corrupt, all this stuff, and think they're always made the bad decisions. But once you sit at that table and have to discuss it and try to convince a fellow council person or another person at the table to agree with you on a project, agree with you on an opinion, you know what I mean? It's hard. So, and there's a lot of things out in the community. You know, they hear a lot of rumors and gossip, and a lot of the community members tear down their own tribe and say how bad we are, how evil we are, and they tear down each other, and we need to get away from that and start being positive and start having solutions, you know, for everything. But I'm really glad to serve, and I'm glad to be here, and thank you very much.
I really thank you, young students, for having this forum. And I'm so glad that you're into politics so soon, because that's what we need. If you can get one person to vote, they can each get one, and it just multiplies. Because like Mandela said, fools multiply when men are silent. You know, so if you stay silent, the fools will multiply. And for me, our most valuable assets is our land and our people. Without either one of them, we have no foundation. And so I've always been a land person. I really have high respect for the land. And I've been on several committees that I often wondered, what am I doing here? But because they were really high position committees, like I sat on the Farm Service Agency and had to give a talk in Spokane for over 500 farmers all across Washington. And I was up there and my voice broke at the end of my speech, and I thought, why can't you just stay home and be happy instead of being out here with all of these people? Then I sat down and I think, it's because of your people that you're out here. And so to me, I've done a lot of really hard work trying to communicate with the local community to bring better relationships with Okanagan County. I've spent my lifetime working to have good relations with our neighbors. And just yesterday, I had a non-Indian lady say they're closing down the pool. What are the kids going to do this summer? So everyone has issues just like we do, and we have a lot of students that go to that pool here in Omak. And so I was happy in retirement, but there are so many issues that are very, very important to me, and I don't want to see them go down the drain, like our clinic or our land. And I think there just needs to be better communication between the council, because the way I see it now, it's lacking. And for the tribal members, you need to know what they're doing over there too, and you don't have to believe all of the rumors, because I don't have all the facts yet either, and I hear a lot of rumors, so I'm not going to say anything until I have the facts. Thank you.
So in closing, I just wanted to thank the Pascal Sherman Youth Council for putting on this candidate forum. You guys are awesome, and you did a great job. I really appreciate you guys stepping up and doing such a great job. Your parents and your teachers should be very proud of you. I want to thank the Cedar Fund for also bringing this candidate forum to each district. I know it's a lot of work, and the Sky Bear Media for providing their services and the YouTube presentation that allows other members to participate and watch as well. All the candidates, I feel, did a great job. I know the casino has hot seats out there, but I tell you what, this is probably the most exciting hot seat I've ever sat in. But I just wanted the membership to know that your vote matters and that you matter. And I, if elected, I will represent the tribe to the best of my abilities. I present myself professionally. I try and consider all the facts before decisions are made. And I think working as a team is very important. And those sitting out at the council table, working together for the betterment of the tribe as a whole is probably one of the best goals that we could work together on, because it became apparent very soon that council represent the whole membership, not just their district. And that became very obvious when I went to the other districts when they had their forums during the primary election process. I believe that treating people cordial and with respect is very important. My door is always open. I'm willing to listen to anything that you might have as far as a concern or an issue. I do return phone calls. I do answer emails. And I've even been told multiple times that I'm surprised you called me back. And even sometimes when I get that call, you hear the person's upset or angry, and you say, oh gosh, I really am going to have to call that person back. Sometimes all they want is to be heard and someone to listen to them and come up with a solution, which I think is very important as far as how a person's treated. And I don't ever want to experience having to call the tribe and never getting a phone call back. But I did learn one trick. Sometimes when you go to someone else's desk and make a phone call to someone else, they pick it up because they think it's not you. That seems to work. Sometimes they answer the phone and they're just, oh, I thought this was so-and-so. And I was like, no, I'm just at their phone. Thank you, guys.
Thank you all for attending the 2026 Omak PSIS Youth Council Election Forum. If candidates can please stay for pictures.